who may also commit folly and mistakes. Now, this is one of the important change in the belief system. Earlier, what was happening? The church was the esteemed class of the society, and they were not supposed to be taken as the common or ordinary men who can commit any kind of mistake or sins. But now the thought process was changing. What was happening in India? Classical Sanskrit literature went into decline in the high Middle Ages to the benefit of Middle Indic vernaculars, common language such as Old Hindi. The Mughal era sees the development of various literary dialects such as Dakhini or Urdu, the latter showing heavy Persian influence. The earliest examples of Kari Boli, prestige dialect of Hindustani, of which standard Hindi and standard Urdu are standard registers, variation in language use and literary styles can be seen in some of Kabir and Amir Khusro's lines. Now, what is this all telling you about? This is telling you about what kind of literature was being produced at that time in India, where they're saying that now there was a prolific generation of different languages, multiple languages. Now, obviously, if you even look at India at this time, um, not to forget that India at that time was a bigger state. It was the whole subcontinent, and Pakistan was not divided at that time. So even if you look at it at this point in time, they have different provinces, and then they have different number of languages, they have number of cultures, and then they have religious sects. So India is rich in culture. So similarly, that culture um, was not a source of exchange and multiplicity at that time before 16th century, but now the times were changing and people were writing in different dialects. The next state that we're going to review is Japan. Literature during the Edo period developed forms of popular drama, which would later evolve into kabuki. That is a dance drama. Hokusai, perhaps Japan's most famous woodblock print artist, also illustrated fiction as well as his famous 36 views of Mount Fuji. Many genres of literature made their debut during the Edo period, helped by a rising literacy rate among the growing population of townspeople, as well as the development of lending libraries. Although there was a minor Western influence trickling into the country from the Dutch settlement at Nagasaki, it was the importation of Chinese vernacular fiction that proved the greatest outside influence on the development of early modern Japanese fiction. Now, what was happening in Japan again, just to give you a global picture of what was happening, obviously, when when there was when there was inclination towards arts globally. Before this, people did not used to pay much attention towards the art and fashion taste. But now, since this was all happening in different parts of the world, it had its influence upon literature, and then again upon the literature of different parts of the world. So if we speak about Japan, there was this new medium of art, which was dance drama. You may understand this medium through the presentation of an opera. If you have ever come across this experience of opera where one lady is singing and the other people are performing, you may imagine what kind of dance drama would it be. People used to perform and present their roles through dance. It must have been very artistic. And then in this point, they say that literacy rate among the growing population of townspeople, it means that people were now becoming more and more literate. Now we're going to pay again a little attention in this lecture towards China, which says political organization here was an empire. The emperor ruled with the mandate of heaven, concept of middle kingdom, recurring cycle of dynasties that first win and then lose the mandate of heaven, highly developed bureaucracy, exam system for public service. Now see, and in the end it says social organization was hierarchy taken from Confucius. Confucius was one of the strong religious scholar at that time. Scholars and peasants, in reality peasants were at the bottom of society. Okay. um in my last lecture, I told you that China was prospering at this time. Why? Mainly because of building these massive wooden ships through which they found different routes, sea routes to the world. And through these different sea routes, they were able to do the trade. And they were able to discover the new islands, the new lands, the new territories around them. They were able to bring even the new creatures to their land. So this, especially speaking, the political organization there was of monarchs like England. But there was this recurring cycle of dynasties that first win and then lose the mandate of heaven. Now what is this mandate of heaven? Mandate of heaven is a belief system on the eternal life after death, where everybody is accountable for their acts. So this gives you, an idea of what kind of social system was prospering over there. It was, I wouldn't say that it was similar to England, but bit similar to England, where peasants were suppressed, like peasants were suppressed before 14th century in England. Similarly, this was happening in China, and there was this highly developed bureaucracy where people wanted to come into politics, and they wanted to somehow be related to um, the intact political system that prevailed at that time. So this is the end of the global picture of 15th and 16th century. We're going